Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, this morning I messed up and tweaked my back yesterday hauling off the garbage. It wasn't even heavy. I bent down to pick something up and there it was. So it'll get over it in a day or two, but yeah, it's got me moving slow. Today's video is about, I was helping a couple of new homesteaders. They're new at this lifestyle, and they had contacted me. They live kind of local, about 20 minutes away, and they wanted me to come out and look at their place and help them decide some of the things that they were going to do, and it got me to thinking about new homesteaders and what they expect and what reality really is. There are a lot of folks who wanted to start this lifestyle, and COVID drove a lot of them here out into the country. They thought that they would come, and they had certain expectations, and when those didn't materialize, they didn't stay. They couldn't stay. They wouldn't stay. Homesteading's hard. Okay, whether it's dealing with the loneliness of it. Some people need to have constant friends around. They love going to work because they've got friends at work, and they get to talk and interact with people, and if that's not happening, they have a hard time. And for me, that was a big part of work. I enjoyed interacting with everybody and doing that kind of thing. But in real life, I am kind of an introvert. I'm a school teacher, so that means I can teach to large crowds and I can teach stuff. But as far as just sitting down with somebody and striking up a conversation, I'm pretty terrible at that. So for me, working by myself during the day, every day, day in and day out, doesn't bother me. I am within my realm of thought doing what I want to do. But some people need that constant interaction in order to stay sane. Well, me, that was just never a thing that I had to do. So, yeah, they have a hard time moving forward. Let's talk about some of the expectations that new homesteaders have that may not be realistic. Okay, one of the first things that comes to mind, this week I was harvesting pears and apples and frying applesauce and putting up pears and that kind of thing, fruit, and it made me think about my grandfather and my mom and dad and my grandmother on mom's side, Granny, and it made me think of of those people and the things that they did on their homesteads, and how that is so different from what somebody in, let's say, a more urban environment, maybe a suburb, okay? Even some folks that live in rural areas but have never had a big piece of property. Some of the things that they just don't think of and don't understand is a thing. When I was a kid, the weeds around the property were high as your head. We didn't have weed eaters. I think weed eaters were invented in the 70s, but all growing up, I was born in the 60s, the early 60s. I'm one of the last of the boomers, and the weeds were always high as your head. You only had a path cut in those areas. You had a little push lawnmower that you mowed the grass around your house, but everything else, if it wasn't in production for your garden, it grew up in weeds, because we didn't have weed eaters and all that stuff. You had a sling blade, I've got one sitting right over here. I'm going to be using it a little later today to cut down some of this weeds and stuff out here. But I've got to get out here and use that. But I don't want to have to cut half an acre. Okay, people will go out and cut half an acre worth of stuff with their weed eater. Why? Why would you go out in your margins and take your weed eater and keep everything all cut down? Why would you do that? I call it recreational mowing. It's not that you're mowing because it needs to be mowed. It's mowing because that's the way you want it to look. You've got some kind of problem against weeds. Weeds are natural. Okay? Natural. Let's talk about natural for a minute. Organic and heritage or heirloom produce. You know, they come with this preconceived notion. They might have lived in a little place where they had an apple tree in their yard, but it was a newer type of apple, something like a red delicious or a yellow delicious, and they had that, and it was these nice big fancy apples. But on a heritage apple, that's what you're going to get. Okay? See the knots and the rough places? Okay, this is a heritage apple. This is a Summer Rambo. I grafted it 7 years ago. It's just now, this is its first apples. They'll get a little bit bigger when the tree's a little better. But they're knotty. They've got rough places in them. When you cut them open, sometimes there'll be wormholes, and you got to cut those out before you fry them. I fried up a mess of these yesterday. You cut these up, cut them up, put a little salt on them, not much, just a little salt, shakers salt. And then you put butter or margarine in a pan, melt it, and fry these in that butter or margarine. And then you add a couple tablespoons of sugar in a whole skillet. Oh, don't let none get on your nose. Your tongue will smack your brains out. They're delicious. It's a taste of childhood that I've been longing for a while. But they come and they get these and they go to work them up, and it takes you hours and hours and hours to work up just a bucket. Okay? To work up and fry just a bucket, it's a couple of hours. That's a lot of work for just, say, a Rubbermaid Tupperware bowl, a Rubbermaid containers full of apples. It's a lot of work. I love them for breakfast on a biscuit. But it's a lot of work. Okay? They'll have a pear tree, or they've never had a pear tree, but they bought pears in the grocery store. But the heirloom pears look like this. Okay? They don't look like they're grocery store pears. They don't realize you have to pick them off and let them ripen. After you've picked them off, you know, you raise them up, and when this stem comes off easy, they're ready to be picked. But when they're picked, they're still hard. This pear is still hard. You don't want to eat that. It's hard. It's not sweet yet. A week or two in the refrigerator, and that pear is ready to go. You could even put it down in your basement and give it a couple weeks, and that pear is ready to go. But it requires that extra effort. Okay? And it's not nice and uniform. Okay? Farmers have a saying. Sell the best and eat the rest. They sell the prettiest apples. They sell the prettiest pears. They sell the prettiest broccoli. They sell the prettiest tomatoes. Okay? And then they eat the rest of them. Okay? The ones that are misshapen or deformed, but they've never seen that before. And they think they're doing something wrong. Okay? So, let's talk about doing things wrong. Now, I have been living this homestead lifestyle since I was 8 years old. My mom and dad, back in 1963, left and went to Detroit, Michigan, so that Dad could get a job. We were starving to death. Mom said there wasn't enough food to go around. So Dad picked us all up and went where the jobs were. Because in rural communities, the first challenge homesteaders face is in rural communities there's low employment. Okay? Low employment. We lived in the coal fields of eastern Kentucky, Harlan County, and it was just one of those things. Coal is a boom and bust cycle. Rural communities have very high natural resources and very high poverty because of the up and down cycle of natural resource harvesting. So rural communities have those cycles too. There are things that are challenges there that just can't be surmounted by a single person. Now, homesteaders come with the idea of sustainability, and what they want to do is they want to create this place where they can grow their own food, they can take care of their own waste, they minimize what they have to have, they understand that they have to live on less. Some of them understand, but some don't understand when they come to this lifestyle that you have to be willing to live on less. I had a doctor friend that was talking about retiring, and he said something, and I said, well, baby, I said, I retired. I said, it's not hard to do if you own your house and you bring in, say, $3,000 a month. He said, I couldn't live on $3,000 a month. I thought, well, baby, there's your problem. You ain't never going to retire. I'd say he'll die in his office. They'll find him one day in his office. I love the man. He's a great fella. But I think he'll die in his office. He'll be working, and somebody will find him with a Maalox bottle in his hand thinking he's having a stomach problem when he's having a big heart attack. But anyway, you know, that fast lifestyle. And that's what people are used to, that fast lifestyle. Homesteading's not a fast lifestyle. That's one of the challenges you've got to overcome, is that homesteading is not a fast lifestyle. There are other challenges. Let's say you want to raise food. For me and Crystal to feed ourselves for the year, it would take 1,400,000 calories. Now, I raise somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 to 600,000 calories a year in the garden. Okay? Pretty much, I raise all the calories that Crystal and I are going to need for vegetables. We still buy a few vegetables. I haven't had any luck growing Brussels sprouts, but we love Brussels sprouts, so we buy them. There are years, like this year, I didn't do broccoli because I just didn't have time. I've got too many other things going on, and that's another thing. There are so many things going on. I just didn't have enough time to plant broccoli this year, harvest it, and do all the things necessary to maintain it. Or onions. I didn't do either one of them this year. We've got a freezer full of onions still, so we're good on onions. I had a bumper crop last year. But they're not prepared to understand that for two people you need 1.4 million calories. It's just off their radar. I've got an acre and a half of garden. Let me say it again. I've got an acre and a half of garden, and I only raise between 500,000 and 600,000 calories worth of vegetables. I've got an orchard. My orchard's not done well, okay? I'll be the first one to say it. I've got peach trees that I've got 2 peaches off of in the last 7 years. Peach trees only live about 10 years. Those peaches ain't going to do crap. Failure. Failure is another one of those challenges. I've got 2 plum trees down there. Ain't never given me a plum. I assume they're the same variety of plum and I need another variety. I've got a cherry tree that I planted 2 different cherry trees, and one survived and one didn't, so the cherry tree never gives me any cherries. I've got to get a new cherry tree and plant. But I don't know which one it is, Stella or Van. I don't remember. Yeah. Challenges. There are challenges. And I'll come out like this morning. I had planned to work on the tractor shed this morning because it's 50-some degrees out here, and but my back says you can't do that. Don't do dumb stuff. Well, here I am, sitting talking to you in a nice, comfortable chair in the tractor shed. Yeah, they don't understand the challenges that are coming. Eggplant. I love eggplant, but on my property, the insect load is so great that unless I spray eggplant with an insecticide, I don't get any. They'll eat the leaves all off of it. So I just quit raising eggplant because I don't like spraying. I would rather not spray. Beans, my beans do fine here. I've got bean bugs. I've got bean bugs, but they never rise to the level of harming my harvest much. I can live in harmony with the bugs and let them have some as long as they don't try and take it all. Corn. I don't spray corn, so when I harvest my corn, I have to break the ends off of because there's worms in there. Okay? So there are challenges that come up every day, and every day is something different. You know, you've got insect challenges, you've got weather challenges. Today we haven't had any rain in a month. Well, you know, my cucumbers this year, I planted them. We got a little shower, probably 1/10 of an inch of rain. My cucumbers sprouted and came up, and then we didn't get any more rain for a month. Nothing. Desiccated them. Gone. So I replanted them. Well, when I replanted them, I've got 2 hills that came up, and out of like 15 hills I planted, 2 hills came up good. The other hills came up spotty, and a deer ate them off. So yeah, there's everything. I've got 2 hills of cucumbers is all I've got out of 15 hills I planted twice. There are going to be challenges. Challenges. Get ready for them. You can't be prepared for all of them. Homesteading is organized chaos because you never know what's going to happen this time. The pigs got out, so you got to go chase them. The chickens got out, so you got to herd them back up because the foxes will get them if you don't. So yeah, they're not ready for those challenges. But those are things that are going to happen. When homesteaders first start out, they have the idea that they're going to save a lot of money by moving to the homestead because they can grow their own food. They can raise their own animals. They can do all those things that they see other homesteaders doing. YouTube has done a good job at getting more people interested in this lifestyle. We should have more people interested in this lifestyle. That's just the fact of the matter. We should have more people interested in this homesteading lifestyle. But they should also understand that this homesteading lifestyle is not a simple lifestyle. You would think that this would be a simple lifestyle, but there's nothing simple about it. They think that they're going to save money by coming here. Well, when you first start homesteading, your whole thought is that I'm going to get solar panels and put them on the roof, and I'm going to do batteries, and I'm going to do this or that. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry, had to step away for a minute. They think that they're going to do all this stuff, the solar stuff. Well, have you looked at the price of a set of solar batteries? Let's say an 18,000 watt system, okay? 18K or 18 kilowatt, however you want to say it. 18 kilowatt system is about what you're going to need in order to keep your house going. Have you looked at the price of one of those? it's about $60,000. Okay? $60,000. So, I'm not going to be able to do that. I found some solar panels, and I'm going to get some inverters, and I want to do things like, I've decided that I can't do solar for my entire house. I just can't afford it. It'll just never happen. So, what have I done? Well, I bought enough solar panels to do my freezers and the things that have to be done if something happens and we lose our electric. Okay? Hopefully I'll get to that. I haven't got to be able to do that because I've got so much of the other infrastructure to do. Fencing. A 330-foot roll of regular fencing like you use for cattle. You could use it for goats if you had to, but they'd be likely to get their head hung in it, so you're going to have to offset it with an electrical thing to keep them off of it because of their horns. But if you think about fencing, just the fencing itself, for every 330 feet of fencing, it's like $300, $350 after you pay taxes and everything on it. $350 a roll. Depending on where you get it, you can get it $297 some places, but yeah, about $350 a roll. And if it's goat and sheep fence, it's even more. So, in order to fence in an acre is 216 feet by 216 feet square. Ain't many square places. I estimated to fence in my 9 acres. I've got 9 acres. And I estimated the cost to fence it in, me doing the work, nobody else doing the work, me digging all the post holes and doing all the work, is about $18,000. Yeah. So, I'm going to fence in a pasture this winter. I think I've got enough posts and enough fencing to fence in about 2 acres. So I'm going to do about 2 acres for either sheep or goats. I haven't decided which. And it's probably going to be sheep because sheep don't have horns. So I've got to do that. The garden. Now, people say, well, I'll do back to Eden because it's less expensive. Have you got a hell of a wood chipper? Okay, you got to have a hell of a wood chipper and a chainsaw if you're going to chip up all the woods for any kind of garden, all of the wood you need, wood chips, for any kind of a garden. Okay? Heck of a wood chipper. Eden must have had a heck of a wood chipper. Okay. Sorry. My neighbor came up and neighbor down the road, they're building on a house and he wanted to know if I had a tool he could borrow, and I loaned him one. So they're adding on to their house, and it's a beautiful old house. I would love to go inside and have a look at it. Maybe if they see this video, they'll let me. But there are things on your homestead. The Back to Eden garden, like we were talking about, is one of those things that you just need to have a lot of work put into that in order to make it work out. Wood chips, you might need semi-truckloads worth of wood chips in order to grow the same level of produce that I do. If you don't do Back to Eden or some other method, you can use a hand tiller, okay? But know that a hand tiller is going to make it, it's going to be harder, but it's going to be a lot easier than just digging. You know, I've used a hand tiller all my life. We planted crops closer because we had a tall cultivating tractor. We cultivated as long as we could with the cultivating tractor, and then we went back over with the tiller later on and tilled and hoed. But yeah, a tiller is a lot of hard work, and it's made for young people. So I have a tractor and I plant in wide rows so I can use my tractor to cultivate with, because my tractor's lower because I bought a general use tractor, not a cultivating tractor. So, but I paid $17,000 for that tractor. So starting your homestead lifestyle is not going to be cheap. It's not going to be cost effective. Canning. You learn these heritage skills. Homesteaders love heritage skills. But if you don't have canning jars, you've got to buy them. Okay? The dollar store over here sells Harvest Masons, mason jars. Mason is a type of jar, not a name brand. Mason is also a name brand. Okay? But Mason is named after the screw on top of it, after the threads on top of the jar. So they sell Harvest Masons over here at our Family Dollar, and I think they're $9 a dozen. So Crystal and I, at any one time, used to. We don't can much anymore, and I'll explain that when I get done here. At any one time, Crystal and I had between 50 and 100 jars, quart jars of something in the pantry, whether it was pickles or green beans or tomatoes. We always had 50 or 60 quarts of tomatoes in the pantry. Corn, we did corn in pints, because when you have corn cut off the cob, you're not going to be eating that as a full meal, so it was always in pints. I said pickles. We had relish. There was jars of jelly and jams and raspberry jam and blackberry jam and choke cherry jam and all the different jellies, peach butter. Of course, peach butter, we had to buy the peaches. Okay. Then there was the wines. I had wines. I made wine. I made blackberry, and my favorite wine is autumn olive wine. We call it choke cherry. Autumn olives. I'll show y'all autumn olives later on in another video. It's getting almost time to go harvest a bunch of autumn olives. But yeah, there are these things that are costful. You know, Crystal and I gave up on canning. We've still got hundreds of canning jars. But we've kind of gave up on canning because to stand at the sink and prepare everything hurts her back. Okay, and it hurts my back too. So we don't can as much anymore. You've got those heavy canners to deal with, and lifting the jars and moving stuff around that's heavy. Yeah, that's just a thing, and it's one of those things that as you get older, you just have to stop. I remember when Ma, my grandmother, stopped canning. They had 2 really big freezers. I have 4 freezers, but she had to stop canning because it was just getting too hard on her at her age, and Pa's age too. So they stopped canning, and they froze everything. Well, Crystal and I are to that stage. I'm 61 and she's 60, and we're to the point that we canned up until this point. We canned last year, or no, we canned year before last, but last year we didn't can any, and we're not going to can any this year. We found that we can put all the things that we can in the freezer, and it does just as good. Okay, we've got enough food in our freezers to last us if something happened. As long as I could keep the freezers going, which that's why I'm putting in the solar panels. If something happened and we couldn't get to the store, there's enough food in our freezers to last us for 9 months to a year. And if you count the dry goods we've got saved up, we have enough to last almost 2 years. Okay? So if something happened and a crop failed, we still got enough to last for almost 2 years. But that's just me and her. If something happened and the boys had to come home, there would be 6 of us, them and their wives. Yeah, it would be tough. Okay? It would be very, very, very tough. And homesteaders have to plan for that. They have to plan for a month down the road, 6 months down the road. So many people live by the seat of their pants. They don't plan for anything. Every month I take $250 of my earnings and put up for health, for going to the doctor and stuff. $250 a month I put up because I've got a $3,000 deductible on my health insurance. And that's another thing, health insurance. It's hard to go bareback. You go bareback and let one of your kids get sick, you're bankrupt. Bankrupt. So you can't afford to go bareback. So one of you has to work. And there we are back to that cyclical thing about living in rural communities. It's tough keeping employment. Now, like I said, I've been homesteading ever since I was 10 years old. I've grew up in this lifestyle. It's a lifestyle where you get up at before daylight, and when I was a young man, I worked till dark. On days that I wasn't at work, okay? I worked in the workaday world my whole life. From the time I was 18 years old, I went to college, and from the time I graduated college, the 2 weeks after I graduated college, I had a job and went to work and haven't been unemployed since until I retired. So, and I didn't retire on disability. I got my full retirement. I want that set up front. I made it to my full retirement, even with multiple sclerosis, ulcerative colitis, okay, and diabetes. I made it, type 2 diabetes. I made it to my full retirement. So, they don't have any concept about the level of work required. They think that you just go out and you feed your chickens, and that's it. You just feed them and give them some water for the day, and then you don't have to mess with them anymore. You go out and you feed your goats and you water them, and then you don't have to mess with them anymore. Their expectation does not meet reality. There are all kinds of stuff that has to happen. You can't let your fence lines grow up. The goats will go right over them if you let your fence lines grow up. The pigs, they'll run right through the fence if you let it short out. Okay, and electric fence don't work on all pigs. Okay, some pigs don't pay no attention to that electric fence. So you can't use an electric fence, so you got to put them in a regular fence in a pen, and it gets like a wallow, the whole pen. So you got to move regularly, or else the whole place smells like pig shit. Okay, there's just some of those things. And they say, well, I'm going to get pasture pigs. Pasture pigs. Well, some of those pasture pigs will pay attention to that electric fence, and some of them won't. Okay, so there's that. Then you got to fix up some kind of way. I saw Al Lumna the other day fix a pig pen that he could pull with his tractor. Oh, that looks like it might be a solution to something. But you let the pig stay on it for 2 or 3 days, and then you move him. But then you got to go every 2 or 3 days and move him. Okay? There's a lot of work. A lot of work into taking care of animals and gardens. Some of y'all see my gardens and you see the weeds. Well, those weeds are there because I've got other things to do other than weed all the time. I get the weeds out of the way till the crops are producing, and then I call it laid by. That's what my grandpa called it. Laid by. I let the weeds go. I don't care. I'm going to get more tomatoes out of my tomato patch down there than I can harvest. Okay, they'll rot. Some of them will rot before I can harvest them and get them put up and processed. I harvest about a 5-gallon bucket every day. Every day, and the weeds are high as my head. Okay, so how many 5-gallon buckets can I harvest? So that's every day. Every day you got to do the stuff on your homestead. I'm caught up in the garden, which is a wild thing. I still need to cut hay. I may cut hay today. Maybe my back will be okay for me to cut hay. I can cut my hay, and then that'll be something I can do from the tractor, and it won't be as big a deal. I hadn't thought about that, but that's probably what I'll do today. I'll probably cut hay after I do this video. So there's something every day. There are demands and challenges every day. And you want to be sustainable. I would love to say that I'm sustainable. Sustainability is a myth. But young homesteaders, they watch these folks on YouTube that show, I don't call them fake homesteaders, but I say that they're just not realistic. They show stuff that I would not consider homesteading. I would consider it homesteading, but they didn't do it. They hired it done. They got somebody else to do it for them. Most homesteaders, 99% of homesteaders can't afford to hire their fences put in. They can't afford to have somebody come and build their barn. Okay? Most homesteaders can't do that. Some of the YouTube homesteaders have large YouTube channels, and YouTube pays for their stuff, so they don't have to be worrying about sustainability and all that stuff. They've got 4 or 5 raised beds, and people think that they're living off that. That's Bullsugar. They're not living off that, but they have a large YouTube channel and they can buy what they need. If my YouTube channel gets big, I'll buy what I need. But I'll continue to garden because that's what I want to do. I'm not after this for a big YouTube channel. This is a chronicle of mine and Crystal's life. As we retire, it'll be something the boys can look back on. Yeah, I may not see my grandchildren. I don't know if my boys are ever going to have grandchildren. I hope so, but I don't know if they are. Times are hard. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Homesteaders want to be sustainable, but sustainability is an impossibility. And they come here and then they find out that they have to put in hours and hours and hours of work. I think about my grandfather. He worked every day in the mines, and then he homesteaded. He had goats and sheep and chickens and a cow and all of that. Ma did a lot of it. Ma did a lot of the gardening, especially the vegetable gardening. She hoed and all that stuff. At one point they had new grounds up on the mountain. I'll do a video sometime about new grounds. They were something cool back in the day. But now they did stuff totally different from the way modern homesteaders do things. So I think about them and I think about the work that they had to put in order to be self-sufficient. It was a tremendous amount of work. But what I saw as a kid was a homestead that had been established for 30 or 40 years. I'm 10 years in. I'm building a tractor shed, a greenhouse, I built a workshop, I built a goat barn, but I've got to side it more correctly. I just used old doors to side it in. I don't have goats yet because I haven't had time to put in fences. Okay, so it takes, I worked 3 years. I bought a 100-year-old farmhouse. And I worked 3 years in that farmhouse to make it livable. Okay, we came and lived on, we put a bed in there and bought some rolly chairs at Ollie's for $39 a piece and put a folding table up in the living room. And I put sawhorses in there and put my chop saw where we could work, and we bought a refrigerator, a big refrigerator, and we took a toilet box that we bought a commode in and set it up and put a hot plate on it. Okay, we lived that way for a year, a solid year, working every day in the house to make it livable. You know, we started with the upstairs bathroom, then we started with the kitchen, then all the other surfaces. There's not a surface in my house that I haven't worked on, floors or walls or ceilings. Okay? Yeah. This whole house has been a labor of love, but it took me 3 years to get done. Me and her both working. 3 years. Every day. We had to completely rewire the house. When we bought it, we didn't know it had knob and tube wiring in it. Well, we were told it had knob and tube, but I didn't realize the extent. I thought the house had been rewired. It had a new box. No. Almost all the lighting in the house was on one 15-amp circuit, so we had to do the whole house. You know, homesteaders, you're going to run into stuff that you didn't plan for. Okay? Stuff that you didn't plan for. You can't be sustainable. It's impossible. I thought when we moved here, and I'd been homesteading for a long time, and I had a half-acre homestead in Harlan County. My grandfather had a 5-acre homestead, and we kind of shared responsibilities, going up there and helping him, and then doing our homestead. And I spent a lot of time up there helping him, harvesting corn, and yeah, a lot of time doing that stuff. And I thought when we came here that I could get more accomplished. I was 51 years old. November of this year, we bought the house in November 18th of 2014. And it's going to be November the 18th of 2024. We'll have been here 10 years. The only outside project I'd done in those first 3 years was I planted the orchard. Okay, and I planted the grapevines. Other than that, I didn't do anything but mow. Okay, we didn't have a tractor the first year. I bought the tractor the second year, so this tractor is 9 years old. And I think I've got 915 hours on it right now, so about 100 hours a year maintaining the property, and I don't mow everywhere. Okay, I don't mow everywhere. Some of it is grown up in trees. That'll be fine for the goats. I'll put a fence around it and put the goats in it. So there are things that are going to take you way longer than you thought. I have been working on this tractor shed, actively working. I think I'm on day 57. Okay, the next day I do will be day 58. So I've done 58 days of work. Now remember, when it gets hot, I can't work out here. So some days I worked 6 or 8 hours, and the other days I only worked 4 or 5. Okay, so yeah, 57 days, 56 days. I don't know. It's close to that. So just working on this tractor shed, and during that time, I've got a big garden. I've got acres and acres to mow, fruit trees, and yeah, there's a lot. Homesteading is a series of working on stuff that's screwed up. And once you've got your infrastructure in, then all you have to do is repair. But you've got to repair constantly. There's always some emergency that you've got to come up with. Finally, homesteaders, when they initially start, they think that they're going to have some kind of self-fulfillment, self-awareness, self-enjoyment. Okay? And this lifestyle is not for everybody. You see it, and you see what's on YouTube, and you see the homesteaders on YouTube. Like even me, I don't show you all the terrible stuff. I don't show you all the hard stuff. This year I've started showing a little bit more of the work in what I call ASMR videos, so that you see that I'm working almost every day. So even with my back bad, I need to go, if my back hurting, I'm going to have to go do something today. I can't do the ladders. My back just will not handle that, so that won't happen. So I'll probably cut hay today. So that's what you're going to have to be fulfilled by. Okay? Fulfillment is a state of mind. Happiness is a state of mind. You can be happy, but not everybody would be happy in this lifestyle. I have done a lot of stuff. Crystal and I enjoy eating good, wholesome food, but that food is not always easy to obtain. Now, we will put up somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 gallons of tomatoes. Okay? 100 gallons of tomatoes. Now, right now, so far, I think we've got 9 quart jars of dehydrated tomatoes. A whole 5-gallon bucket of tomatoes makes a quart jar of dehydrated tomatoes. Okay, because you take the seeds out. and you cut the ends off and all that stuff. But now, a gallon freezer bag of tomatoes, a quart jar, makes 3 or 4 of those, or a 5-gallon bucket makes 3 or 4 of those. So when we get our freezer a certain fullness, we can't add any more. So some of our tomatoes we'll either give away, we'll eat, or they'll just rot out in the field. And it's hard to be self-fulfilled with rotten tomatoes. Okay? They'll look at that and go, well, I could sell them. Everybody around here grows tomatoes. Selling them is a lot harder than saying I can sell them. There's a reality check that happens to homesteaders. It's the most satisfying life in the world to me. I'm a physics professor, retired, and I'll just tell you, this is more fulfilling than most of my time teaching. Now, I loved teaching kids. I did a thing where I went to the high schools and taught physics in the local high schools. And I felt more alive connecting with those young people and teaching college level physics in a high school classroom than I felt in a long time. So that's the way I ended my career. I was doing that toward the end of my career, and we were getting kids college credit before they were graduating from high school, and it was a good feeling. But here on the homestead, there's a certain level of fulfillment that you just can't find anywhere else. It's a connection to the land. God lives on my homestead. I go up to the barn and sit in the evenings and watch the sunset, and yeah, God's there. You can feel him. I know he's there. So yeah, there is a certain connection, a certain love that you can feel on a homestead that you just can't feel anywhere else. Nowhere. So I have spent my life doing this, and people that want to start at this, I say go for it. Okay, you can wait all your life and not experience this. If you're 50, go for it. If you're 60, go for it. Okay? You don't have to have 10 acres when you're 60. If you got 4 or 5 acres or 2 or 3 acres or a half an acre, you can start this lifestyle. Get out there with a tiller and till the crap out of it and start planting. Okay? You can do it. It's easier to be sustainable on a bigger piece of property, as sustainable as possible. Remember, sustainability is a myth. So, yeah, there are ways that you can come to this, but not everybody is going to live the dream. You know, we have dreams of sustainability, cost savings, living on less, being fulfilled, more time for family, your children growing up, playing in the dirt. You know, but be realistic. There'll be shit. You have to haul it. You have to dig it. You have to move it. Okay? There'll be other stuff. Always something's coming up, taking away your time. You'll think you're doing this today and you're not doing that because this came up. And you got to handle that before you can move forward. So yeah, that's going to happen. But this homesteading lifestyle for me has been a tremendous aid in my health. My health is better now than it was 15 years ago. Okay? It's better now than it was 15 years ago. Is it the exercise? Maybe. Is it the food? Maybe. Is it a combination of the lower stress, the food, and the exercise? Almost definitely. Okay? So, yeah. I live on less. Crystal's retired when I did. She doesn't draw a pension. We live on my pension. But when you're at home, it doesn't cost you as much to live on your pension. If you've got your house paid for. But now, know this, nobody in America owns nothing. Let me say that again. Nobody in America owns nothing. If I don't pay the taxes on this place, they'll take it. Okay? Nobody in America owns nothing. If you don't pay your property taxes, they'll come and take it. That's just the way that works. Okay? If they want to build a road through your property, they'll come and take it. So don't think that you're an island. Don't think that bad stuff can't happen. You know, Job looked at God and said, you know, why do the evil prosper while the good suffer? And God said, where were you when I made the wild goats? How is it for you to understand about all of the things in nature or to the nature of God? You can't. You're a human. You can't do that. So we live by the nature of will. So homesteaders have to have a lot of will to modify nature to their demands. I say all the time, agriculture doesn't occur naturally. Okay? Back to Eden is a fine thing. Food forest is a fine thing to think about. But agriculture does not occur naturally. Pay attention. It takes a lot of work, whether it's back to Eden or whatever kind of gardening you're going to do. It's a lot of work. Maybe more work than you want to put into it. It's a heck of a lot easier to go to a job every day and bring home a paycheck than it is to raise your own food. Trust me. I've been doing this 50 years. It's easier to go to a job every day than it is to raise your own food. So, homesteaders have to have a realistic attitude when they come. I love this lifestyle. Crystal is not an outside girl. She's never been an outside girl. I knew that coming into this. But I'm an outside guy. I like to be out here doing stuff. So I do what I like and I do what I love. And that makes my work awesome. Could I support myself while doing this if I didn't have a pension? Absolutely not. Alright? Truths. Homesteaders that want to get into this lifestyle need truth. They don't need faux homesteaders showing them stuff on YouTube. They need truth. Okay? If me and Crystal was trying to do this to make a living, we'd starve to death. So, yeah, that's what you need to know. That's the things you need to hear. Okay? Everything on a homestead is expensive to start with. Just making tomato cages. I make tomato cages out of concrete wire. When I started this 10 years ago, I had a bunch of concrete wire cages already for my little half-acre homestead, but I didn't grow as much stuff there as I do here. So I had to make cages. Well, concrete wire used to be $116 for 120 feet or 125 feet of it. Now it's $270. You know, used to I could make a tomato cage for $2. Now they're $4 or $5 or $6 to make a 5-foot tall tomato cage. So yeah, that's one of those things that you know, life moves on, and the power of mine and Crystal's income will decrease as the years go on. My dad lived to be 69, 67, and Mom lived to be 68. So, yeah, I'm 61, so how much longer have I got? I don't know. I didn't work the same kind of job he did. I may have a lot longer, but I may not. There's no way to tell. But I'm going to enjoy these last years. I'm going to enjoy them. I want to be doing this into my 70s. Okay? So, be prepared as a homesteader to understand your limitations. A man has to evaluate himself every day. You know, Clint Eastwood said a man's got to understand his limitations. Well, yeah, a man does have to understand his limitations and move forward. As long as you're moving forward, everything's good. It doesn't matter if you're moving forward 1 step or 4 steps. But tomorrow you may slide back 3. But overall, you still went forward a step. So, be satisfied with that. And know that that's going to happen. Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homesteading stuff every week, sometimes once, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. Now, if you hit the little bell that's be right up here when you come to the channel, it'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. And every now and then we do a short on Saturdays. So now, time for me to get on to the next thing. And I think I'm going to go cut hay. Love y'all.